morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from now. How are you doing? I hope you are doing great and I hope your week has been great. Are we gonna happy? Today is Friday. I'm happy. I'm happy that today is Friday. So Nelly and I, we are on another session today on our children, their safety. Today we're gonna be talking about questioning, right? Why do we feel, or why our parents sometimes feel challenged when they get questioned from their children? Are you feeling that way? Do you feel that way sometimes? Because yes, I do. Sometimes I feel challenged sometimes. But yeah, Nelly and I today, we are here today to just share our story, share our experiences, and how we can make things better in ourselves. So for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Peggy Barre. I am Survivor Empowerment Coach, the founder of Arise and Thrive Academy, where we support survivors of abuse to heal, rebuild their life, and become confident and resilient parents. So let me pass you to Nelly to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. Nice to have you here today. I am Nelly Kwasuni, a social worker, transformational life coach, and co-director for Hand in Hand Community CIC, where we work with families to promote family unity. And our focus is on mental health, emotional well-being. So welcome to this session. Today, we are talking about the question is questioning parents disrespectful or is it healthy communication? So I think starting off, it'll be nice to define what respect is because I feel respect is a common word that is easily used, but sometimes I feel that it's being used in the wrong sense. So Peggy.
Right, respect. I didn't actually find a definition for respect, but I'm just going to define respect based on my own understanding, right? And without making it look like a punishable thing. So, respect, in my simple understanding, is when you say something, the other person should approve of it, or saying things in a nice way, in a loving way, in a respectable fashion, without being rude. Well, so I don't know. That's my own layman definition of respect. So, Nelly, I don't know whether you actually had a definition of respect, or I should have
Okay.
pulled that up just so we know that we're using the right terms in terms of respect.
Yeah, so I looked up what respect means. It means, it's similar to what you said. It means treating someone in a way that shows you value them, their feelings, and their boundaries.
Hmm.
So, valuing someone, their feelings, and their boundaries, that is respect. I feel that a lot of the times we use, especially in our African community, we use respect a lot. And as we go along, we will expose some of the things that we feel that is being either misused or used appropriately because it's a two-way question. It's not just a yes or a no. It is like a debate. So we will look into that. So yeah, that's what I have for respect.
Yeah. And talking about respect, and when it comes to questioning, I feel that from culture or from our growth experience, well, we grow in a society, especially from the Afro-Caribbean perspective, we grow in a society, in a culture where maybe biblically you're told that, you know what, you have to respect. The culture itself tells you that you have to respect. And as a child, you don't have to, and part of that respecting is questioning. You don't have to question your parents. Who are you to question me as a child? So that is a mentality where we grew up, and we felt that, you know, if I question an elderly person or question my parents, I feel like I've disrespected them and they feel disrespected. But well, that was before. But we are living in a society where the norms are changing. things are gradually changing. And so we need to also learn to change our mindset around questioning, especially questioning coming from our children. And I'm going to share an interesting story. A very interesting story where when I look back now, Nelly, I feel like, you know what, was there any need for me to really chastise my son? There was a time when, well, after a long while being single, okay, and I said, okay, maybe let me just try and venture into kind of having a relationship because I felt like, okay. And then I had a friend, a male friend, we were just kind of having a chat and just getting to know each other. And there was a day that this male friend visited me. And when he showed up, my first son, the first thing that when he showed up, he came to the kitchen. I was in the kitchen and he met me in the kitchen and we were chatting. And then my first son came down. At the time he was 20, 22, no, 20, 20, 21 or something. He came downstairs and had a chat with this gentleman. And then when this gentleman left, my elder son came and told me that, Mom, why, who is that? Who was that? Of course, we kept questioning, and then I was answering and answering and answering. And then he said, I don't know where that question came from. And then he said, Mom, if you were to fall ill today and you couldn't go to work, would that gentleman be able to pay your bill? And I was like, what's It's like, what stupid question is that? And then I said, you know what? Why do you have even to be questioning me? And I was like, and then he said, no, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. Don't get offended. Don't be angry. So again, looking on the hindsight now, well, of course, it was just a friendship. And again, like you say, you want to test the waters. And then again, things, it ended that way. But I'm looking at the hindsight and say, these are some of the questions that our children will challenge us and ask us this question. But again, it made me to reflect. When I was in my moment alone, Nelly, I started reflecting. I was like, this child's question, where did he come from with this question? And is it valid? And then I started reflecting on it. But to be honest, what he asked, if it happens, would that be the case? You understand? So where was that mindset? So for me now, I was struggling with two. One on the one hand, how dare you question me, especially asking me about adult things? And then on the other hand, me being the new generation mom now, I'm thinking, but hang on, maybe that child, what he said makes sense. So yeah, so if is that conflict, Nelly, is where we are as parents, is that conflict where we need to try and move away from this mindset of no, a child shouldn't question me, and we move to this other style to say, hang on, maybe I can just, why not? Why should I not listen to their question? And why should I not be comfortable to answer that question without feeling disrespected, if you get what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself in so many instances. But before I come to share mine, I was just looking at the context of respect, and I found this, and I thought that I would share. It's really interesting. It says that the context of respect approach is often developed in response to colonial history,
Mm,
racism, and survival needs, where discipline was seen as punishment.
mm,
So that's where the
mm.
aspect of you do what you are told, you don't
Yes.
question, and all of
Yes.
that, because it is very authoritative, it
Mm-hmm.
comes from a place of discipline.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now, with the changes, which we are shifting from doing things from survival instinct or from the way we were brought up to being conscious, to being intentional. And we have had sessions like this so many times where we talk of parents to be intentional or to be conscious when they are dealing with their children because times have changed.
Yeah.
The aspect of respect in those days, the way it was seen as punishment. And
Mm-hmm.
when it comes now to authority figure, which that is one of the points I will talk about, isn't it? I think it's the first point. why children question authority. It's because, like the way we were brought up, first of all, children see parents as their first authority figure.
Mm-hmm.
When we are growing up, like for us from the Afro-Caribbean communities, we don't question our parents. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it links into the approach where it is linked to colonialism, racism, and what was the other one? And survival needs. So then we
Mm-hmm.
don't question our parents, we don't question our elders. And now, in my position as a life coach, I see a lot of people who struggle with confidence and esteem because when they were younger, they saw their parents or the elders as authority figures, and with the mindset that they dare not question. When they find themselves now as adults in
Mm-hmm.
a situation where their authority figure is saying something, they know what they
Mm-hmm.
want to do, they know what is right for them. But because of that mindset that how dare you question the authority figure, they don't. And it impacts their confidence, it impacts their self-esteem, and it can result to bullying as well because you will just be there wanting to be very sweet and soft all the time. But then if we train our children to question, like the example you've shared, I mean, for myself, I've had so many of them because I've got 4 children. So each of them, they come with theirs. And sometimes I'm just like, okay. Sometimes I get really, really upset. But then, like in hindsight, because I always reflect, when I
Yeah.
reflect on it, I'm like, oh yeah, they have a point because you know, us, I just feel that like our generation, we see things differently. Like we
Mm-hmm.
want to persevere, we want to persevere, we want to persevere. But our children, they know a lot of different things and they interpret it differently from us. So
Yeah.
when they see things and they feel that it's not right, straight away they will question.
Yeah.
And for us, because we think that when we were younger, we did not have the courage to question our parents. How dare our children question us? So I think, yeah, I think going into the first point where why children question authority will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this, honestly, it like we're all saying, it comes down, it gets to a point where I was having a conversation today with one of our parents in the community, and she was telling me how her 14-year-old daughter just suddenly decided that she doesn't want to go to school. She doesn't want anything to do with school. And whenever she wants to ask the daughter why, the daughter gets so the daughter is always angry, the daughter doesn't want to listen, and all of that. And then, as we're having the conversation, the lady, it turns around like, because of her beliefs and because of the way she brought up the child, and now she feels like the child is challenging her. And she was saying that this child never used to talk before. She just used to listen when whatever thing I tell her she used to do. I don't know, for some reason, wherever out of a sudden, she just started questioning me. She just started talking. She wouldn't listen and all of that. And she was so frustrated. And I was thinking, is it down to this? Is where now you kind of thinking like, is the child being disrespectful, or is the child now just trying to express her feeling? Maybe that feeling that was suppressed for so many years, and now this child is finally, maybe, I don't know, she has just maybe found her voice and she's just trying to express herself. And maybe the reason why she is not going to school because she left things build up to a point where now she just feel like maybe the school is not supporting her because she wasn't speaking, before. And if you don't talk, if you don't ask question, how are we going to know what you're going through. So these are some of the things that if we don't teach our children how to ask questions, and not just asking questions, asking challenging questions, how are we going to know what they're going through, and how are we going to know how to help them? So it's about teaching these children. Yes, maybe for us as parents, we might not have had that opportunity, from our parents to teach us this confidence and teach us that asking question is okay. Maybe we might have missed that opportunity. But here we are in a society full of every type of thing, the peer pressure, internet, everything happening. If we don't teach them and be able to embrace their questions, so long as they ask that question, respecting who we are as parents, right? But then we need to make sure that we give them that space. Nelly and I will talk a lot about that space, that atmosphere, conducive atmosphere for them to express them. And Nelly, I'm sure you agree with me. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Because my question may be stupid, that child's question may sound stupid to me, but it's not stupid to them. And likewise, my question sometimes may be stupid to them, because sometimes I do ask some stupid question where they'll say, Mom, what sort of question is that? But for me, it means that question is valid. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that we need, as parents, Nelly, we're navigating, like, questioning. We're coming to that point where we talk about questioning authority. I think we need to start breaking that barrier, start breaking that mentality, that mindset where we feel like children are not supposed to question authority. But then there needs to be a fine line, Nelly. How can we make children understand that they are okay to question authorities, but making sure that they're mindful of that respect that you talked about? Because I feel respect has to be both ways, isn't it?
Yeah, respect, like, let me just go a bit back to what respect
Mm-hmm.
is. Respect has three elements. You
Mm-hmm.
value someone for who they are.
Yes.
You respect I can't be defining respect and put respect again. So you show their value, that you show their value,
Mm-hmm.
their feelings,
Yeah.
and their boundaries. So those are the three
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah.
Children, this is now a research that I found. It says children are often misunderstood because
Mm,
when they question, it's because they want to know.
yeah.
But then, because of the parents' mindset,
Yeah.
they misunderstood or they misunderstand the children for being disrespectful.
Mm,
So,
mm,
to me, it's an aspect of mindset because a lot of the times parents think of how they were parented, whereby
yes.
your parent will say, do this, full stop. But now our children are different. When you tell them
Mhm,
to do something, they'll ask, why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do it now? Why can I not do it later? Why can some
mhm,
other person not do it? Why? They keep on asking. And then sometimes parents will say, do it this way. So children might question, why do I have to do it this way? Why not that way? So
mm,
there's a level of control there where the parent wants the child to do things their own way. And in a way, it limits that child's creativity because
mm,
the child might think of doing that same thing their own way. But because the parent wants them to do it in a particular way, the child becomes probably argumentative because they don't understand why they have to do it only the way the parent wants them to do. So, like you said, it's for us to be mindful of how we have talked about communication so many
yeah,
times because it comes down to communication. And
yeah,
some research that I found, they said that children who who grow up in an environment where they can question authority is very beneficial in the sense that they learn to manage their emotions, and
Mm.
even in social outcomes, they become independent. They can speak up for themselves. They can ask when they don't know. Unlike those who grow up in those environments where they are not to question because they see it as being disrespectful, they struggle with regulating their emotions. They struggle with confidence, even the communication itself.
Okay.
And children, even in very strict homes, they show a sign of resistance to authority. They might display it in a subtle way. And like in this case, I don't know if it's on this show that I've talked about that sometimes you see children in homes that we feel are very disciplined home. But then when the children go to boarding school, when the children go to university out of their home, their
Mm.
parents don't have a clue what the children are doing because
Yeah.
children will present to be very honest and respectful children within the home.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they are out with their friends or where they feel that they have the liberty or the freedom, the children tend to misbehave because they haven't learned how to be respectful. They haven't
Yeah.
built that boundaries yet. So they'll just behave depending on their feelings. They are not able to manage those feelings. So it's for us to step back and examine our mindset as parents. What beliefs do we have around discipline? Because if you look at it, it is not just with families in the diaspora. All what we are talking about also takes place within our African context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so true. That is so true because I feel that and again, when we don't build a society of children that ask questions, even the society is not just asking question at home, but also questioning even authority. When we talk about authority, authority begins from parents. Like there's parent-child authority, at work, where you work, there is your employer-employee authority, wherever in the society, there is that kind of authority. Now, the reason why you may or that child may be going through some difficult times and they cannot express themselves because they are scared, even at your work side. You're scared to ask your boss, why am I being treated this way? Or why is this thing this way? Right? And because you're scared of the consequences or scared of feeling like, you know what, maybe my boss is going to feel like I'm being disrespectful. But surprise, surprise, you'll be surprised that there are some, again, it all depends on every organizational culture. Any organization where the culture there is openness, there's a culture of openness and all of that. Your boss will be happy to have you ask question, right? Without being feeling challenged, because that question might just be an insight into something that may be valuable to the business. you know like I would say, it's not just about asking questions, it's about asking valid question. And again, some valid question might sound stupid. Again, like I say, there is no stupid question. A question might sound stupid to somebody, but it might be valuable to me, it might mean something to me. So what I'm saying is that what the culture that we build, that culture of questioning starts from home, because as parents, that is where that child is being grown, child is being brought up, that child is being taught values, that child is being taught, like shown thing like this is how the society. I'm kind of nurturing you, raising you to the outer wall. Now when you go to that outer wall, how are you going to feel? How are you going to behave? Are you confident enough to ask question and question your authority, question authorities? I was just saying the other day to somebody, we were having a conversation. I was like, you know what? Maybe you see how even when we complain about stuff, I know this is like an off topic, but sometimes we question about government, like, they're not doing this. But you see that majority of the citizens or majority of the population are not asking questions, you know. And this is the same thing like with us as parents, that I know I should have learned a little bit more, or my parents should have taught me a little bit more. I started asking questions in later life, Nelly. And the reason why I started is because I said to myself that, you know what? I am not going to end up being sub again, let me say the word submissive or being passive, because there's sometimes when we are quiet, or when we don't ask questions, or we're passive, or we take submissiveness, like, you know what, especially a girl child, you have to be submissive, and for us sometimes, by being submissive means that your voice needs to be silent, you don't have to express yourself, everything that people say you just take it for yes, you don't even get to have the chance to question, but why is this thing done this way? Why is that thing done this way? But then we give away our voice. That is not submissiveness. That is giving our voice away. And so, as parents, this is what we need to start teaching our children, that it is okay to ask questions. But how are we as parents going to react when our children turn around and ask us that question? What is the attitude that is going to come from us? Because that attitude is going to either make or break them. That attitude is going to either tell them that, okay, it's good to ask question, or no, it's not good to ask question because, my parents will get angry.
Yeah, and respect. Respect is not just a one-way thing.
Mm,
Respect is on both sides. So, as parents, as anyone needs to be respected, regardless of age and all whatnot. But unfortunately, the way respect has been created, there is
mm,
hierarchy of respect,
mm,
which to me, some people, they demand respect. But I think respect is something that flows. Respect is very important because it's linked to morals. But sometimes people misuse respect. They use it
mhm,
as a form of power to command people to do things.
mhm,
But then coming back into the home, parents, the way respect is not just telling the child that when I say this, you just do it straight away. As a parent yourself, do you do the things that you are meant to do without being reminded, or without a
mm,
child crying that, please, 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 do this for me, do this for me? So the respect is for everyone. Parents
yeah,
respect parents respect each other. Parents respect the children. Children respect the parents. Children respect your siblings. So the respect
yeah,
is just everyone respecting everyone. Because sometimes you hear parents say that I am the parent, I am the older one, you must respect me. But then the parent doesn't respect the child. And that is where children start disrespecting, because they feel that their boundaries are not being, their parent is not even valuing their boundaries. So then that is their own way of saying that they don't want. And the linking to the lady you talked about with the daughter is similar.
mhm,
The child might feel that her voice was not heard, and that is why she doesn't want to go to school, because probably her mom hasn't explored why she doesn't want to go to school, because it is obvious that something has happened in school. It might be small or it might be big, that the child feels that no one has listened to her. So she might be like, what is the point talking about it when no one would listen to me? And then because she doesn't want the same incident or the way she feels to be repeating itself, she has decided not to go to school. So it's a matter of communication. Again, we always come back to communication. And when you were talking about respect, I had an experience in my place of work where I questioned my manager and it came to her as a shock. And she was
Mm.
so when she asked me to do something, I asked her, why do I have to do that when she knew that I had back-to-back appointments on that day? And I told
Mm-hmm.
her I'm not able to include the task that she was giving me. And it took her by surprise because anyway, she said, so she was like, she reacted like this. And she said, how dare you question me? And I'm like, I'm not questioning you. I'm just saying I'm not able to do that task on that day because I have
Mm-hmm.
back-to-back appointments. I don't even have a break. She was really, really upset about it. And she was
Yeah.
like, how dare you question me? No one questioned me. And she started talking to me like I'm her child. I'm like, but excuse me, I'm not your child. I said, even my own children, I don't talk to them that way.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just on about it, and she went and reported me to senior management. And what she said was, I'm refusing to support the team. And I was like, okay, if that is what you are saying, so for me, I was looking that my manager, she had her own personal issues.
Yes.
That's why I was like, that's her trouble, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And you could just tell from that type of person that, well, and you'll be surprised that the way those type of people, yes, we might say, okay, the same attitude or the same leadership style that she brings to work. Maybe that's the same leadership style she's got at home. But surprise, surprise, even at home, she might not even be able to talk to the children the way she would talk to the staff,
You know,
and then she,
exactly. That is what I
yeah,
told one of the staff. I said, I am sure that at home she has no voice. And then when she comes to the office, because that's where she feels that she has her authority, she then
yeah.
just talks to people without, she doesn't respect when she speaks. Because
Mm.
even there was a time we were in an open office and she was just shouting at me and then correcting my grammar in an open office. And I just looked at her when she was talking. I was just looking at her, but in my head, I was thinking, what is wrong with you? And
Yeah.
then she got even more angry that she's talking and I'm just looking at her. So yeah, it begins from home. It begins from home. Authority
Yes.
begins from home. But
Yeah.
the takeaway that I would like parents to know is that the way they treat their children at home with respect, with communication, and with questioning, it doesn't just end at home because then children unconsciously take that into their adulthood and it affects their communication, it affects relationships, it affects them being who they are meant to be because their confidence is impacted, self-esteem is impacted, and they just do things because they have been asked to do something. They don't even question. And imagine doing something when you don't even understand how to do it, why you need to do it. It's much likely that you will make mistakes and mistakes. But then when you question, you get clarity that you do it because of whatever reason. So I think as parents, we need to be patient as well. Remind ourselves that the child is asking, not being disrespectful, but they want to understand. So they will do the things properly the way the parent wants and not the other way around, that the child is just being disrespectful.
Yeah. That is so true. And again, we talked about ways of having a healthy dialogue. We've talked about this over and over and over
Yeah.
because to be able to encourage your child to actually feel motivated or feel like questioning is part of a conversation lifestyle within the home, we need to, first of all, create that environment, that conducive environment for dialogue. And we've talked about it so many times where, as a parent, you need to listen to that child. That child may come to you. And sometimes as parents, Nelly, we also need to be learning from our children. Have you noticed that children these days, as early, as young as even two, in fact, when they start to talk, they're so inquisitive. Why did you do it? But mommy, why? But mommy, why? And then why? So they're asking why, because they want to know more. They want to kind of understand why are you doing this? Why are you saying this? Why are you taking this decision? Why are you, and it is encouraging. If we start practicing it as early as possible to make sure that we answer our children, even though as innocent as they are at that age, then we need to start bringing them up as they mature. Of course, they are faced with a lot of challenges. They are faced one with culture. First of all, our culture that they don't understand, you know, things that they don't understand. Sometimes, if we don't give them that opportunity to ask question without feeling disrespected. And for me, when I look back at that question that my son asked Nelly, and the hindsight, I'm thinking like, he wasn't disrespectful. He was just caring for me. He was just looking. He was just like, wanting to make sure that my mom is safe. Like this person, I just want to know more about this person because you know what? I want my mom to be safe. And so sometimes as parents, we maybe just be very quick, very harsh, without actually taking a step back to like reflect that, hang on, this child, that question, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a point of fear, or what is the other one, Nelly?
Fear or love?
Or love, exactly. Is it coming from a point of fear or point of love? Right? So you can feel that it was coming maybe from both sides, or maybe from a love. Let me say it was coming from the side of point of love, because he was asking that question because he did not want anything bad to happen to me. So again, it's about learning. And I've learned, even though I'm still in that learning process, but it's kind of, I'm feeling like, okay, I need to be comfortable when my children ask me questions, especially when they become teenagers and even adult, Nelly. Some of the questions that they come up with, and you're thinking, you're rubbing your head like, where is this child coming from? Where is this question coming from? You know? And that is just how the society, how the world is. And as parents, we need to feel comfortable to welcome that question. We need to welcome that culture of questioning, or that questioning culture, without feeling disrespected, by our children, especially if they've asked the question in, they've asked it in such a way that they are meeting our own, they're not hurting us in a way, if you get what I mean, then why not? We should be able to answer that question.
Sometimes is parents feel that it is too, parents don't know how, parents don't know the age appropriate language to use for
Yeah.
children. So sometimes parents feel that how can they answer? And then
Mm,
instead of figuring out how to answer in a language that is suitable but not over giving too much information to the child, the parent, it is easy to tell a lie. And then when parents
mm,
tell a lie, the child has already registered that in their head. And then
yeah,
when the child finally finds out the truth, the child will not approach the parent to say that, but you told me something else.
yeah.
And because the child might develop some other instances might have happened, which might contribute to the child not trusting the parent because they remember that the parent told them a lie, or it could
Mm-hmm.
be a series of lies.
Yeah.
So if a child asks a question, instead of responding straight away, when you will be reacting, It's good to
Yes.
take a pause, and it is
Exactly.
okay to take a pause, stop for some time
Mm-hmm.
so you can think and focus. You review your answer in your head before you say it out loud. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that necessary? Is it helpful to the child? Is it answering the question that the child is asking? And
Yeah.
is it appropriate for the child's age?
Yeah.
Sometimes what we can do as parents, which that's something that I learned and I've been using, is when a child asks me a question which I feel that it is too much for their age, I will turn it to them and ask them to find out what they know about the question that they have
Mm.
asked me. So when I've asked and explored all what they know about that topic, sometimes they even know more than me because now you have the internet. They use
Mm.
it to look for all sorts. But then where I find the gaps, I then put in my own information. So then I am not giving the child too much information because they already.
Yes.
But sometimes when a child asks a question, parents are like, no, 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 you don't ask that kind of a question. When we do that, children are not just obedient followers, they are active participants. When
Yeah.
a parent reacts in that way, the child might start questioning, why does my parent or why is my parent not wanting me to know that? Why are they stopping me and things like that? And then instead, the child becomes more curious about that particular thing.
Yeah.
And then they want to know.
Yeah. Exactly. So that I think that in fact you just actually said some of the points which I put down about like what are the healthy ways or the tips of having a tough conversation or answering a tough question if your child asks you a tough question as a parent. Just like you say, the first thing that we need to do as a parent is first of all to be honest and simple. Right, we need to avoid long lectures. And Nelly, this is one of the point that, oh, I used to get it all wrong. You know, when the child asks one simple question, mommy will lecture and go and say things that, even out of the topic and go in, you come back and, ah, and
I
so,
used to do that as well. I used to do that. And sometimes, I mean, my children have told me so many times, Mom, I've just asked a simple question. I didn't ask for a lecture. So I've also learned.
we have to learn, Nelly. You have to learn. And at the end of the day, I bet that child will leave and wonder, like, has she answered the question or what? So now I'm conscious. So, and I'm sure it's habits because that's how our parents never used to give us a straight answer. Never
That's
ever.
true.
They never used to give us straight answer. When you ask, even if you muster the courage to even ask a tiny question, or even
Mhm.
if you do something wrong, they will not talk on that particular thing that you did wrong. They will navigate and start talking about something that you did even 1 year ago, 6 months ago that was wrong, and bring it to that.
Like my children, sometimes when I go and I rant and I go somewhere, they'll be like, Mom, you are saying something. How is that related to the question I've asked?
So it's a habit that we need to actually get to a point where we need to be conscious. And I will say so many times about consciousness. We need to be conscious of the culture of where we're coming from, our upbringing. How is it different from today parenting style? And we need to make sure that we consciously start changing some of these beliefs. So we talked about be honest. If a child asks you a tough question or even a simple question, no matter what, if it's a question, be honest and simple, right? We need to avoid lectures or winding question and bring it straight to the point. Let's say it's straight to the point, simple for that child. And also in an age, give them an age appropriate answer, just like you said, Nelly, because we need to answer in an age appropriate. There are certain ages where our children don't need to know more than they need to. right? Maybe when they grow to that, then that's where we can clarify or even answer that question properly. But we need to be conscious of the age. The second thing we need to do is pause and process, just like you say. If a child asks you a difficult question and you feel like, oh, maybe that child just taken you by surprise, like what my son did. Maybe I shouldn't have even answered at that time. It's about pausing and processing. And don't feel pressure to answer immediately. Okay. Because it is okay to say, you know what? That's really a good question. That is a good question, but let me think about it and I will come back later. I'll answer later, because like Nelly said, at that point, especially if that child has just asked you a question and you feel like emotion can take over. And when emotion take over and we cannot control that emotion, we're going to start spilling something else, which again might not be good for that child. And it might just put that child off. They might not want to ask question again the next time. So if we don't know, pause, process, and tell them that, hang on, that is a good question, but let me think about it. I'm going to respond to you another time or later on, or you can give an appointment, like we talk about it, so and so and so and so. The third thing, I don't know, Nelly, what I wanted to say something. There were just some pointers that so the third was ask why and what they think, just like what you said, Nelly, because you said there's some question when you ask sometimes, it's about asking that child, what do you think about that, your question? Where did you hear it from? Or where did you get it from? Or what made you ask that question? And we should ask that in a nice way, not making that child feel like they've actually they've committed any crime asking that question. The atmosphere at that moment should be very conducive. You yourself as a parent, you should be very relaxed. In fact, even if the question is eating you up, just take a deep breath and say, you know what, I'm just going to act nice. I'm just going to act nice and just have a conversation. Where is that question coming from? Hang on, what do you think about that question? And this helps to understand their perspective and also to clear any misconception. And then the fourth point, which is about validating their feelings, because again, when we acknowledge their emotions, right? And for example, it makes sense that you feel or scared. I'm just thinking like when my son asked me that question, I did not validate his feeling. I ranted. And in fact, I had to chase him out of the kitchen. Why did he have to ask question? I did not validate his feeling, like to even thank him for asking me that question, because I would have said that is the moment I would have said, you know what, I feel your fear, or thank you because you're asking this question because I know you love me. You're asking it from the standpoint of love, not. So I did not validate his feeling, and maybe that just put him off. And again, this is some of the things that I'm learning in the house. That again, like we say as parents, it's a learning process. And we need to reassure safety. That's another point. And for scary topics, because there are some topics that our children will come to us, especially your girl child, where they're going through some changes in their life and they are struggling to find out why. They want to know why. And maybe they're coming to you as a mom, knowing that maybe you have gone through that same changes and they want to hear firsthand knowledge from you. It's about reassuring them, right? And focusing on how for them to making them feel safe and that we're not judging them, right? So that we create that atmosphere where they can feel comfortable to even ask more questions. And again, last but not the least, keep it casual. Like we say, treat every question like an informal type of, don't make it too formal, don't make it too serious, right? Because like for me, sometimes my children, sometimes when they see me, when my children, when they look at me, sometimes see my forehead. When they see me squeeze my forehead and my forehead is like, they say, Mom, relax. And when they see me squeeze my face, even if they're coming to ask me a question, they're just going to go back. They're not going to ask it because they know that they know that state where I am, just by looking at my forehead, they say, no, 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 I can't. Let me not ask this question now, or let me not say this thing now. I'll go and come back.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to learn to make sure that I also relax. And relaxing means relax in such a way that it can show on my facial expression that I'm relaxed and that I'm not ready to scream or shout or lecture or all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because sometimes children feel the energy. They might
Mm,
not understand what is going on with you, but they feel the energy. And you've not
yes.
told them anything, but they just know, nah, this is not a good time.
Mm-mm.
I think for children, not just the girl child, the boy child as well, they need
Yeah.
that reassurance because children all go through physical development. I
Mm,
remember there was a time a few years back, I was telling my son about his man's pad and things like that.
yeah.
He was really surprised because I was like, when you're having a shower, you need to wash down
Mm-hmm.
there well, do this, that, that. And he was really surprised. And he was like, Mom, how do you know about it? You are not a man. I said, yeah, I'm not a man, but I'm your mom. So I know some stuff. That's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you. But he was really surprised. And then I was thinking, where does he think he came from? So it's that kind of thing. So bit by bit, there were certain things that, I mean, he knows that I'm not a man. So what I know is limited. But there are certain things that he will come to find out about me and asking me, but in a way, but I was like, I would prefer if there is a male figure that he can
Mm,
be asking all those questions because he will feel like children will feel more comfortable asking from the same, um,
yes.
like a mom, a girl asking from the mom and the boy
Mm-hmm.
asking from a dad or male or female figure in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm-hmm.
creating that open environment where children and parents can ask questions rather than insulting others will make the home environment very conducive and growth will take place, positive growth within that home. Just before we continue, I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at the generational views on respect. So we see
Mm,
that we have the older generation, their perspective on respect is very
mm-hmm.
different because for the older generation, their perspective on respect is based on obedience,
Yeah.
silence, and compliance. And that is what you had talked about earlier on, and which
Mm-hmm.
goes under the belief that do not talk, just listen and do what I have said.
Yeah.
That is for the older parents. But then for the younger generation, they feel that respect is mutual, is
Yeah.
understanding, is communication. And for the
Yes.
younger generation, they emphasize on emotional intelligence, which this is something we talk all the time.
Yeah.
Safe expression, again, we have talked about this, and explaining decisions. So this is from a research and it's the views of young people. So all what we have said, I know we've talked about it in one way or the other, but I just thought let me differentiate this so that
Yeah.
we know because there's always that gap between the older generation and the younger generation because we
Mm-hmm.
talking about the Gen Zs are the troublesome generation. But it's just that we are running out of patience and the younger generation, they want to understand things, but then the older generation are not patient to explain,
Mm-hmm.
to let them understand what it is. Because again, that respect, it has been misunderstood. And those are some of the things that we need to really bear in mind. And at Hand in Hand Community, what we are trying to do is bridge that gap. We are
Mhm.
running something that we have a workshop which is based on bridging the gap, intergenerational dialogue, where
Mhm.
our aim is to get the different generations within the family in one room and just have that conversation, have different exercises whereby, let's say, a grandparent talk of what they are experiencing from the way they were brought up to the way they are seeing their children now. Then parents
Mm.
can talk about their own what they see. They are in the middle, how they see their children and how they see their parents, and then the child, just for each and every member to listen. So then listen to understand. So then they figure out where the gaps are. It's not a matter of blaming, it's a matter of understanding each other's perspective, because we want to be respectful and also to be respected.
That is so true. And I'm sure Nelly, you've got flyers for that. We of course we share some of those flyers because it's very interesting for us to understand, or for our children to understand this different generation. Why are we? Because again, sometimes our children, if they don't understand why we behave or think the way we do, sometimes they may not be able to know. They may feel like, we've gone bonkers. No, it's because the way we're brought up. And this is why it's also important that sometimes have this conversation with your children. Like you tell them that if I'm acting like this, it's because of the way I was brought up, and they did this, that. And we're learning. It's not about being static. And it's also teaching them that, what, we learn. Life is a learning process. If there's something that I don't understand, I need to learn to understand. It's just like what the conversation I was having with this parent today. Because I think she is the older generation, and I think she had the child very later on in her life, and the child is just 14 and she's in her, I think, late 50s, or so, even early 60s. And it is challenging. And this is the thing. And then I was trying to tell her that, what, you need to move away from that mindset of, this is the way I'm brought up. Yes, you're a church person. The church, the Bible says we shouldn't do that, but it doesn't stop me from also, because when I was listening to a podcast, we're driving, and I was listening to a Mel Robbins podcast, and there was a doctor that the medical doctor was talking about neuroscience and all of that, and she turned and said to me, she said, I don't believe in all those lies. I was like, how do you know their lies when you even haven't even listened to what they're saying? She said, no, because if I was listening to a doctor, I wouldn't have been alive today. I said, but hang on, let's just listen to what they're saying in the podcast before you make your conclusion. And it felt to me like she just blocked her mind. She doesn't want to listen to anything else. She just said, what, the Bible is the only a true source, and every other person is a lie. I said, yes, I know that. But again, it's always good to open your mind. These people who are teaching this thing, they're coming from even biblical perspective. Just be open-minded to learn, because if you don't learn these things, how are you even going to know that there is a different way of parenting your child? The only way you know of parenting your child is the way your parents brought you up, and that is what you learn from your parents. But here you are, you have a child in a different generation. You have to understand that things have changed. If you don't open your mind, you may not agree with the views of everybody, but there are some certain things that you pick and say, this one makes sense. I can apply this, and all of that. So in a nutshell, what I'm saying is that as parents, we need to be open-minded to learn, learn and one of the ways that we need to learn is to be comfortable to allow our children to ask us questions, and we can also be comfortable to answer the question without creating chaos.
Yes, yes. Yes, that's really true. I mean, I think something that we talk about all the time is for parents to have an open mind to learn because as a parent, as a human being,
Mm.
there are life lessons that we need to be learning because if not, we will be stagnant. And I feel
Yes.
that that is a habit that a lot of people have developed because what I see is people just want to have food on their table and their life ends there. So then
Mm.
they are not open to learn anything else. Why do I say so? When I started my life coaching business, I was open to giving free consultations, 1 hour free consultations.
Mm.
And people will book on the free consultations. Mind you, it's free. And then I had a number of cases whereby I was the one chasing them to say, like sending reminders that
Yeah.
anyway, the automatic reminder goes up like your appointment is in 3 days, is in one day, is in a few
Mm.
hours, and things like that. And surprisingly, a number of them did not attend. And because I had booked out that time, I contacted them. And the most annoying thing was a number of them said, "Oh, I forgot." And I just thought, are you serious?
I
Are you
know.
serious? So I was talking to my other colleagues, coaches, and they were like, "Nelly, it's good you are realizing that now." But for them, they had realized that long, long ago. So
Yeah.
it is not that people don't know where to get help, it's that they are not willing to change their situation. You will
Yeah.
be surprised that some people just like being the victim.
Yeah.
Some parents will, because they have that victim mentality, they
Yeah.
will present to be victims and their children will be the perpetrators.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
children might just come asking questions to parents or just trying to interact with parents. But then the parent thinks they've always been the victim. They'll say, "Oh, this child is just harassing me." And sometimes when you ask, what is the harassment? Sometimes it's that the child is just asking me too many questions.
For
But
sure.
what are the too many questions? Is it too many questions or is it harassment? I said, okay,
Exactly.
if the child is asking too many questions, are you answering the questions? Yeah, I'm asking the question, but the child keeps asking the question. But of course, you are not answering the question properly. Probably you are just giving a one-line answer. That's why the child wants to know. Take your time, really answer the question probably properly.
Yeah.
So that the child will not be asking because like the child will be asking follow-up questions and follow-up questions for them to get what they really want. So again,
Mm-hmm.
it's for parents to be open-minded to learn because anyone who doesn't want to learn is a moving corpse. We need to
Very
be
true.
learning because that is what life is all about. But when we say we just want to be comfortable, that's not what life is meant to be. We are meant to go through the challenges and learn the lessons, and that will be when things will seem easier. But it's not that it's easy, it's because you've learned the skills to deal with
Mm-hmm.
those difficult situations. But if you don't, then things will be gentle, will be difficult because even the mere communication is one of the most difficult skills that exists because people struggle to communicate. And why is that? It's a skill that anyone can learn it. But if we don't want to learn it, then we'll not be able to develop those skills. And then there will be so many problems because we have many things in here, but then it's not coming out here. But the saddest
Absolutely.
thing is we expect others to know. People are not mind readers. You need
Yeah.
to say what is going on for people to
Yeah.
understand.
Very true. That's so true. I feel like we need to really challenge ourselves and we really need to push ourselves. Yes, it's good to make sure that at least we put the food on the table, we do be mom and all of that. But again, it's about getting to a point where you want to challenge yourself. I always used to say that it is my responsibility and I'm accepting full responsibility of my life and happiness and accepting full responsibility of my future, my present, my future. I may not take responsibility of my past because again, maybe my past, I could not control certain things, but now here I am. I I have the choice to think or feel the way I want to think and feel and to learn the things that I want to learn. So it's always a challenge that, you know what, we're in a learning process. And if you feel irritated, angry, uncomfortable when your child comes to you to ask you a question and a tough question for that matter, then it is your time or it is your opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not going to feel offended. I'm not going to feel angry. I'm just going to pause, take a deep breath, reflect on the question, and then answer the question without creating chaos as a parent. Because that may just be that single opportunity or that single moment that you either going to make or break everything with your child. Your child may leave that moment and say, you know what? I have got the confidence to ask question, or that child may leave that a moment and say, you know what, I'm not going to ask any question again because you know what, I feel scared. And as parents, we need to choose which one do we want to, which of these do we want our child to become? So it is very important that we need to learn to embrace questions. So Nelly, I don't know whether I
Yeah,
want
and
to
it
have
is,
a word.
and
Yeah.
and it is very okay for parents if you feel embarrassed by the question that your child has asked you. Tell them,
Mm,
thank you for the question. I'll think about it and I'll get back to you, or we will talk about it later. That child will know that yes, their question has been heard, and
yeah.
you will revisit that question later on. And when you say that, let it not be an escape route,
Yes.
because that child, they might not remind you, but they will be waiting for your response. So take
Mm,
it your responsibility. When you are ready, you ask the child, okay, now I'm ready for us to talk. Don't make it formal, just make it informal.
mm.
You can be in the kitchen cooking and you can just come out, oh, I remember, the question you asked. Yeah, I've thought about it, is whatever, whatever. It doesn't have to be a lecture. Peggy and myself, we have learned and now we are not giving lectures anymore.
No,
Sometimes when I
no
catch
at all.
myself giving the lectures, I'm just like, I just stop in the middle of a sentence and I'm like,
So we hope you learned something, whether you're watching now or maybe you're going to watch later on. We hope you learned something from it. Like we always say, we don't come here prepared. We don't come here. We're not expert in these things. We are just lived parents. We've got a lived experience and we're just sharing our experiences. And we hope that you're going to pick one or two things that is going to help you make sure that next time you be comfortable to embrace that question with the right attitude, right? So thank you so much for watching. And if anything, you have any question, leave your question in the comments below. Like we always say, if you want to be part of our panel, by all means, we welcome you to be part of our discussion. So we hope you have a nice weekend and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. So that's for me, Nelly. I'll pass that to Nelly
yeah,
too.
thank you so much, everyone. It's always a pleasure having this session and hope you picked up something useful We hope to see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend and enjoy the weather. Bye.